have this friend named Jason, and when we first started hanging out together, I noticed something about him. Whenever we went to the coffee shop or to get gas or wherever we were, he would call people by their name on their name tags. And at first I thought he was being like rude or sarcastic, but as I began to hang out with him more often, I saw that he did this to everybody. And so I asked him one time, why do you do this? Don't you think it may be construed as rude or off-putting or awkward? And he said, no, I'm just simply acknowledging the people across from me are human beings, and they have names. And there's a subtle art to neighboring, to acknowledging other people around us as neighbors. And it begins when we see each other as fellow human beings. A legal expert stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to gain eternal life? Jesus replied, what is written in the law? How do you interpret it? And he responded, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said to him, you have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But the legal expert wanted to prove that he was right, so he said to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In the mobile society we live in now, we spend most of our time in micro-communities, smaller versions of what used to be called the neighborhood. The coffee shop, our workplace, the places we eat or the places we frequent, the grocery store, places like that. And in these micro-communities, we come in contact with the people who are actually our neighbors. From the barista we know by name, to the person we see sitting in the comfy chairs every Saturday, to our small group of friends at the place we work at, or to the fellow shoppers or diners or others who occupy the same space we occupy. These people are our neighbors. Periodically, we get the opportunity to show a little love to our neighbors, whether it's something simple like opening or holding the door for someone whose hands are full, to helping a single mom clean up a spilled drink, to allowing someone with fewer items to go ahead of us in the checkout lane. We have so many opportunities to share this love Jesus talks about with our neighbors in little, small ways. If you like coffee as much as I do, you may have experienced this phenomena of paying it forward at local coffee shops, especially in the drive-thru. You get up to the drive-thru or to the register, you pay for your coffee, and someone has already taken care of it. In fact, on Christmas Eve, hundreds of customers at one Starbucks took an opportunity to pay it forward, giving many fellow patrons a big surprise when they came to pay the bill. More than 300 customers had paid it forward by the time the store closed at 8 p.m. On Christmas, the number had jumped to 420, and it was still going strong the day after Christmas. By 5 p.m. that day, more than 720 customers had paid for the customer behind them in the drive-thru line. This is just a small way to identify and share with the neighbors in our micro-communities. Imagine what we could do if we loved our neighbors as much as we loved ourselves on a larger scale. The possibilities are endless. The kind of love Jesus is talking about here in this passage from Luke is not some superficial love. It's a deeply embedded love that resides in our heart, our strength, and our mind, and our very being. See, in Jesus' time, a person's identity was intertwined with one's heart and one's mind. So what Jesus is saying here is that the love we have for God is part of who we are. And when it becomes a part of who we are, it just kind of naturally overflows out of us. But this love doesn't happen overnight, or at least the understanding of this love doesn't happen overnight. It grows within us as we begin to understand first that we are loved. We are created by a loving God who cares for us and loves us with an unstoppable, unquenchable, unconditional love. And as we begin to understand this more, each day we begin to find, as the Apostle Paul does, that nothing separates us from the love of God. But the first steps of our journey in the art of neighboring, we've got to start small. So the first step to showing love to our neighbor is to understand that we ourselves are worthy of love. When we begin to understand that we ourselves are worthy of love, well, then we can actually go out and share that love with our neighbors. Because then we'll see them not only as worthy of this same love, but in great need of it. How will we go out into our communities in small ways to love our neighbors with the same love God shows us? I think to begin to answer these questions, to really get good at the art of neighboring, we need to answer this question that the legal expert asks Jesus: who is my neighbor? My prayer for you is that as you make your way through your daily routine, you begin to see neighbors all around you in the people you encounter and share space with. To see them not only as people, but as created and loved by God.